Mr. Rontu Basu, President of the Indo-Canadian Business Chamber, will now start with the welcome address. Thank you. Rontu.
Can I ask everyone to come up front? There are a lot of empty chairs in front. And may I ask you gentlemen to move here in the center. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen and distinguished members on the dais. A very warm welcome to you all today. We have an action-packed day ahead of us with no time even for coffee breaks. So it's going to be tight. It's a great privilege to hold our ICBC National Convention in conjunction with the visit of His Excellency Mr. David Johnston, the Governor-General of Canada, who will give his keynote address at the valedictory address this afternoon. It is indeed a great honor for the Chamber in the 20th year of its existence to have the Governor-General grace this convention. We are meeting at this important juncture in the Canada-India relationship, coming on the heels of the conclusion of the 7th round of the bilateral negotiations to conclude a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, CEPA. In fact, when Minister Ed Fast, the Minister of International Trade, was here in November 2011, I had, in a lighter vein in that session, commented how the Honorable Minister, given his considerable musical talents, he's adept at the piano and he's a part of a gospel group, was literally singing a new tune in international relations and trade, and that our trade negotiations certainly seem to be on song. The theme of our convention today is India and Canada, an innovative partnership. Our 3 sessions on financial services, information and communication technology, skills and education development will explore areas of partnership opportunities for India to benefit from Canada's innovation success and innovation ecosystem. Indeed, all the players and catalysts who share this common goal of significantly enhancing trade, investment, and technology relations are present in this hall today, be it the governments of Canada and India, ICBC, and the representatives of Canadian and Indian companies. We hope that this convention will open an important dialogue among senior policy and decision makers that will serve to break new ground in ICT, financial services, and education collaboration, and help identify opportunities for stronger and more creative bilateral activities that reflect the two countries' shared emphasis on the innovation scorecard. Canada-India relations are getting warmer every day. High-level delegations from both countries and various ministries have already visited each other over the last 12 months. Indeed, in 2014 alone, in the last 2 months, we've had several high-level visits. Minister Olivier, Canada's Natural Resources Minister, Premier Alison Redford from Alberta, and Senator Asha Seth. Earlier this week, India and Canada have signed, in the presence of the Honorable Governor-General, an audio-visual co-production agreement which will enable film producers to tap into various incentives and tax breaks offered by both governments. Most importantly, the Indo-Canadian community in Canada, which is over 1 million people, offers a bridge that both countries can use to develop closer cooperation. There's also a vibrant, albeit informal, network of friends of Canada, many of whom are in the room today, who are active bridge builders. In India, the opportunity is often hidden amongst the challenges. There are 3 compelling reasons why India should figure prominently in every country's business strategy. 1, it's a market for all products with a diverse customer base. 2, cost, the potential of India to serve as a cost reduction platform. And 3, innovation and technology, which is the theme of today's convention. India represents a multifaceted opportunity for Canada. A huge export and investment market, a cost-effective outsourcing destination, an investor into Canada, and a partner for third country projects. It is interesting to note that Indian companies have invested more into Canada than Canadian companies into India. As Indian majors such as Tata's Aditya Birla Group and SR continue their globalizing presence, they have invested in software, services, and mining in Canada. The critical thing is that trade is not just about dollars and cents. It's about resources, services, movement of persons, investment flows, strategic interests, and politics. Trade today between our two countries is around $5 billion, but these modest numbers are more a statement of the past and not the promise of the future. Virtually every province in Canada and sector is now actively engaged in the India file, be it ports, natural gas, oil sands, clean technology, forestry, steel, and higher education. But trade and investment relations are not restricted to large Canadian companies alone. Canadian small and medium enterprises, SMEs, have plenty of room to grow in India, especially since Canada's SMEs are essential to Canada's economic and social welfare. For Canadian companies, particularly SMEs, the time to get into India is now, and ICBC is ready to play its part as a facilitator and catalyst. I'm confident that the convention and its deliberations during the day would help provide an ongoing platform on which to build relationships, deepen conversations, and develop concrete and actionable outcomes for senior decision makers. I'd like to conclude by saying something which I've repeated before, that yet dil mange more as far as the Canada-India relations go. For the Canadian delegates, the heart desires more. I'm sure that since we are having this convention deep in Bollywood territory, like our Hindi films, this relationship too will have a happy ending. Thank you, and I will now invite Mr. Shashi Gavai, former High Commissioner of India to Canada, to introduce our chief guest, Mr. Apurva Chandra, Principal Secretary Industries, Government of Maharashtra. Mr. Shashi Gavai.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a especially warm welcome to our friends from Canada. I see so many of my old friends here, and it's wonderful to connect up again. An ICBC convention, annual convention, is always a very special event, but it's made all the more special this year because we have the Governor General of Canada speaking to us later this afternoon. He's a very special person, apart from the fact that he's the senior-most constitutional authority in Canada. He's a great friend of India. He's a great academic, and he has visited India several times. Some years ago, he was telling me about his earlier visit to Mumbai. He was driving from the airport in the morning, and he was coming to a hotel in South Mumbai. But then he heard something which made him turn back and take the first flight back. That happened to be the 26th of November 2008, and Mumbai was under terrorist, attack by terrorists. Fortunately, this year his visit here is taking place under very favorable and very nice, very pleasant circumstances, and I'm sure his visit will add value to the relationship, particularly since he's such a great lover of India. Without further ado, I'd like to get down to business at hand. And first of all, we have two distinguished speakers here today. We have Mr. Apurva Chandra, Principal Secretary Industries, Government of Maharashtra. And we have Ms. Sarah Wilshaw, Minister Commercial in the Canadian High Commission. And she also has a rather interesting designation which I have never heard before in my 37 years in the diplomatic service. It's Program Manager India. So that is an interesting diplomatic designation. Perhaps it's a very business-like kind of designation, and one always lives and learns, so this is something new for me. So may I now request Mr. Apurva Chandra to deliver his remarks. We are, if I may just mention, we are running a little short of time because we must finish in time for the Governor General's speech. I think what we'll do is we'll have the two speakers, and then if there is time, we could have some interaction and perhaps a Q&A session. So may I now request Mr. Apurva Chandra to speak. Thank you.
I don't think you have to worry about the length of my speech because it is bound to be short. I spent a large time of my past 15 years of my career in the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas in Government of India. So my first interaction with Canada started from Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas when we visited Calgary in the year 2000, because that was a time when India was opening up its oil resources, and we were holding the first round of the new exploration licensing policy. And Calgary and Houston were the places to be. And in fact, that was a very successful round. We attracted a number of companies from Canada. Nyko Resources, I think they came around that time at Hazira field in Gujarat. And thereafter, they have been partnering Reliance Industries in the prolific KG-D6 basin, which is, of course, now set with some controversies. But and a number of service companies also got attracted to India around that time. And so it was always a pleasure to visit Calgary during the road shows. I visited it 2-3 times during that time. And apart from that, there was always the added pleasure of going to Lake Louise and Banff from Calgary during the free time. So we were successful that time in attracting a number of companies in the oil sector, and I think the partnership of Canada with India in the oil sector continues to this day. And it is a very fruitful partnership, as was mentioned earlier, in terms of innovation also, because the Canadian companies are leaders in coal bed methane technologies, now in shale gas also. And that time there was a lot of talk about tar sands, but at that time, because of the low oil prices probably, tar sands were not very viable, but now I believe that tar sands are being exploited in a big manner, and a lot of oil produced from the tar sands is getting exported to the USA. Subsequently, our offshore arm, ONGC Videsh, they purchased a field in Sudan from a Canadian company. That also proved to be very fruitful for the Indian company. We made a lot of money in that. I think the payback period for that purchase was just 2 years or 3 years. Now again, that is beset with problems because of Sudan. Unfortunately, now when I come here in the industry sector, I find that the investments from Canada into India, as was mentioned earlier also by Mr. Basu, are quite meager. When I was looking at the figures, I was quite surprised that over the past 15 years, the FDI from Canada into India is just $429 million, which is a pittance, considering the size of FDI which is attracted not only by India, but just Maharashtra itself. Maharashtra is a leader as a state in the FDI in the country. Maharashtra itself has attracted $61 billion worth of FDI over the past 10-12 years. So in that context, I think today's deliberations, ICBC, it is a very sound organization. We should be discussing on what really holds back Canadian companies from investing in India. And I, being from Maharashtra, I would of course plug for Maharashtra, in Maharashtra also. Just a couple of days back, on the 27th of February, we signed 32 MOUs with investors from across the world for investments of about $4 billion into Maharashtra, with major companies like Mercedes-Benz, Caterpillar, Alfa Laval, Bosch. They were major companies, and they're all investing in Maharashtra. Number of companies from North America, General Motors, General Electric, they're already in Maharashtra with major plants. So Canadian companies also, we would like to invite in a big way in Maharashtra. Maharashtra is the most industrialized state in the country. Manufacturing sector contributes about 21% of the state domestic product. And we have just introduced a new industrial policy last year. We target to increase the share of the manufacturing sector to 28% over the next 5 years, with a 12 to 13% growth every year. And we are targeting an investment of $80 billion into the state in the manufacturing sector over the next 4 or 5 years. The Maharashtra contributes to 16.7% of the industrial output of the country, 21.4% of the exports, and as I mentioned, the FDI contribution, it is the highest in the country at $61 billion over the past 4 or 5 years. We got an inquiry last year from Rio Tinto Titan for setting up a manufacturing metal and metal products unit somewhere in Pune, and we have assured them the land, all possible help. We look forward to more companies from Canada coming here. The main issues when a company comes into the manufacturing sector in a foreign land or in a state is assurance of land, speedy clearances, and that we can assure that Maharashtra, being a leader in the industrial sector, will be in the forefront and will provide all possible help. Day before yesterday, we again inaugurated investor facilitation cell called Maitri, and Maitri in English means friendship. So we assure a investor-friendly approach, and on the land front, I'm sure many of you would be aware that there is a Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor project being implemented across 7 states where there is a railway line, a railway freight corridor between Delhi and Mumbai. And along that freight corridor, there is a proposal to start industrial townships. And in that, Maharashtra being the tail end state along where the freight corridor ends, in Mumbai at Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust, we have already agreed to all the terms and conditions. We are signing the agreements with the Government of India in a day or two. And we have acquired a lot of land at a place called Aurangabad in the center of Maharashtra, which is a very ideal location. Number of multinationals are already there. So that again provides a place where Canadian companies can come in, set up manufacturing facilities. IT sector, pharma sector, biotech sector, here again Maharashtra is a leading state, and we welcome all the Canadian companies into Maharashtra, and we look forward to increase in trade and improve this figure of $429 million over the past 15 years to, at the first stage, to at least $500 million every year henceforth from Canada. Thank you.
Morning, namaste. Thank you for the warm words of welcome. Yes, it is a kind of a unique title to have a trade program manager for India. I think it signals that I'm first and foremost a trade commissioner. No matter what my diplomatic title is, that's my job, and that is to try and get more trade and commerce going between India and Canada, and so that's what the title means, but thank you, Your Excellency. Principal Secretary Chandra, thank you for your words as well. Rantu and Nadira, distinguished guests, ICBC members and friends. It gives me great pleasure to be here today to lend my support to the ICBC National Convention, and particularly this theme of Canada and India, an innovative partnership. It may not always be an obvious partnership, but in fact, there are many good reasons for it to be a very strong and innovative one. Canada and India have several commonalities, and many of these get discussed regularly. Our people-to-people ties, the rule of law, democratic institutions, commercial engagements that are complementary, where Canada's strengths in agriculture and food, energy, infrastructure, and education are a good match for the needs that India has in those areas. But we also share some challenges that force us to think creatively and develop solutions that work to improve the lives of our citizens. We each have a vast and varied territory, extremes of climate and geography, a diverse population, and a need to deliver goods and services to remote locations. So if necessity is the mother of invention, the necessity is certainly there in both our countries. The Government of Canada supports innovation through research and development, tax incentives, and direct assistance to business. All companies based in Canada, both foreign and domestic, that invest in research and development activities can apply for what is known as a SRED program, or the Scientific Research and Experimental Development Tax Incentive Program, which provides for deductions and tax credits to help you with your bottom line. Direct support programs include things like IRAP funding, ISTP funding, the Automotive Innovation Fund, and other programs and support from both the federal government and the provinces. Here in India, I noted that yesterday was National Science Day, and the theme was fostering scientific temper and energy conservation. I saw also that Mahindra's used that occasion to announce something called a Rise Prize, similar to, I think, an X Prize, for innovation. So it was $1 million for innovations in self-drive and solar power. I think these kind of incentives can be very powerful. And with our Governor General here this week and focusing his visit on this very theme of innovation, entrepreneurship, education, we've heard a lot about how we can work together to grow, create, support, and incentivize innovation and entrepreneurship. I'd like to just take one more minute just to talk about a program that our offices, that is the High Commissions, consulates, and embassies we have been working on in both the U.S. with some success, and that we're looking to develop here. We've recently introduced this. It's called the Canadian Technology Accelerators. We have these across some parts of the United States very successfully, and we've recently sort of brought in some more resources to focus on this here in India. So it's going to be a new dual-track virtual accelerator program designed for small, fast-growing Canadian and Indian companies from the technology sector looking to scale and grow internationally. The program, as I say, is modeled on our program in the U.S., and it's proven to be an effective way forward for ambitious, innovative Canadian companies looking to expand and succeed in dynamic new markets. In addition to the proven Canadian track that is for the Canadian companies, the program in India has a unique feature of a dedicated India track, where high potential Indian startups will have the opportunity to use Canada as a platform to access the North American market. So we're really looking forward to this. It's our way of creating a bridge between the entrepreneurs and the innovators in both our countries, as well as the support networks that surround them. We have, as I say, new dedicated resources for this, and we're very excited about the potential for it to further strengthen Canada and India relations. I'm very much looking forward to our discussions today, and I thank the ICBC for putting together such a wonderful program, and also to our partners and friends for the opportunity to be here and for their ongoing support. So thank you very much, and have a great day.
Your excellent presentations. May I set the ball rolling for some discussions by posing a question to Mr. Apurva Chandra. You mentioned about Maharashtra being the leading state in India in terms of investments, in terms of industrialization. Very true. You also said that Canada, investments from Canada were really below par. That is also very true. My question is that there is somehow a growing perception, there has been over the past perhaps couple of years or so, that Maharashtra is falling behind other states in terms of attracting foreign investment, attracting capital. Now, this may be just a perception. It may be removed from reality, but perceptions are sometimes more important than reality. What is the government of Maharashtra doing to change these perceptions, to improve, the image of the state as the premier state in terms of, industrialization and attracting investment?
Yes, I agree with you in the sense that Maharashtra has been a leader and today also is a leader, but apart from Maharashtra, other states also are attracting a large number of investments over the past few years. Prior to the year 2000, probably Maharashtra was the only destination if a foreign investor would come into India, but now there are other states also. And that is how it should be. It is not that, we are attracting investments into India and not just Maharashtra. Now I'm wearing the hat of Principal Secretary Industry in Maharashtra. So I'm speaking for Maharashtra. But then India, if there are other states also, that definitely benefits India. Now a large number of investments are attracted to states like Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Gujarat, and Andhra Pradesh, for one. Maharashtra, of course, it is not just that Maharashtra has lost its charm. There are many industries which are coming. As I mentioned, just 2 days back, we entered into MOUs worth $4 billion with 32 companies. Many major companies are here in Maharashtra. In Maharashtra, the difficulties have been on the land front because acquiring land anywhere in a more, once a state is more industrialized, more urbanized, then the acquiring land becomes more and more difficult. And in that, one has to move out of places like Mumbai and Pune and go to other places in Maharashtra which are equally good. And that is why I mentioned in my presentation that Aurangabad, we have got now acquired 3,400 hectares of land. We are setting up a separate company which will develop it in partnership with the Government of India and Japanese help. So that is going to be an outstanding industrial estate, industrial township. Apart from that, Nagpur, which is another very major city of Maharashtra, located in central India, a lot of land is available. Amravati, I mean, there are so many centers where a lot of land, a lot of opportunity is available. But if a company comes to Maharashtra and all the companies want to be near Mumbai or Pune, then of course it becomes slightly that much more difficult. But still, if we want to attract investment, and we will provide all the possible help wherever possible.
Thank you, Mr. Apurva Chandra. That was, I'm sure the audience found that very useful, that clarification. Would Minister Wilshaw like to pose any questions to the industries, the Principal Secretary Industries, in terms of what Canadian companies or the Canadian government would expect of the government of Maharashtra?
Certainly. Thank you for the opportunity. In fact, I actually just want to address the question of Canadian direct investment in India. Because it is, I agree that there's still more that could be done. But I also think that the numbers don't necessarily reflect the reality of the situation, because you miss some of those who invest through perhaps Mauritius or Singapore or Cyprus. And I speak to many of the Canadian companies doing business here on a regular basis. And I can tell you anecdotally that there is far more than 400 and some odd million invested here. In fact, one need only look at a few of the major investments that Bombardier, McCain, Apotex, and others have made in this jurisdiction and in this country to understand. Magna, for example, in Pune, Leitens, Leggett and Platt, so many Canadian companies have taken positions here and come into the market that it is misleading to count on those figures. What we like to do at the High Commission is, and within Trade Team India, we like to look at the numbers of Canadian companies actively engaged here. So a couple of years ago, the High Commissioner challenged me to triple that number, and we're almost there. We had 250 in 2011 Canadian companies actively engaged in the market. And about a third of those, actually more than a third, probably more like 40% or so, with a footprint on the ground. And so, you know, in the last couple of years, we've seen that number grow to 615 now. So that, I think, speaks volumes. You know, that's real interest, that's real engagement, that's people here doing business on a regular basis. And I think that's a better indicator of the actual engagement and the investment that people are making here. But to your point, Your Excellency, about what Canadians expect, I think that Principal Secretary Chand has addressed it very well. Canadians like predictability. They like stability. They like to know that they're going to get their clearances in a timely manner. They like transparency. And obviously, we would do everything we can to encourage the Indian government as well to sign the FIPA and to help us conclude an ambitious CEPA. And all of those things will support very strongly and underpin our relationship and encourage further investment from Canada in India.
Thank you, Minister Wilshaw. That was also very useful. And I'd just like to add that apart from all that you said, Canadians are also extremely polite people. Now, I mean, we do have time for a few questions, a couple of questions, and I throw open the floor. Any questions from the group? Be happy to. I'm sure our guests would be happy to take them.
Statistics of how many of them are actually SMEs?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that the vast majority of Canadian companies writ large are in the SME category. We don't have all that many Bombardiers, Blackberries, and so on. Those are the big names, and you all know them. But in fact, the vast majority of Canadian companies are SMEs, and certainly by Indian standards. So it's pretty easy to say that, yes, I would say that of 615 who are here, certainly, something like 3/4 or more would be SMEs.
I think Arun has a question.
Yes, I wanted to ask Sarah about when do you think will SEPA finally conclude? Because I think it's been going on now for almost about a year and a half. So that's my first question, and quite related is, when is the co-production treaty likely to, the film co-production treaty likely to happen?
Well, I'm happy to say that I'll take the second question first. That happened already. And we had the very great pleasure of signing the audio-visual co-production agreement at Hyderabad House in the presence of the Prime Minister of India and our Governor General on Monday. So that's done.
Congratulations.
So, yes, thank you very much, and thank you. And particularly relevant here in Bollywood. This is now the time. Let's start doing some things together in this space. On your first question with regards to the SEPA, we've had 8 rounds. We're looking to have an ambitious agreement, and I think it takes, to quote Minister Fast on this subject in another negotiation, it takes time to get it right. So we want to make sure that it is an ambitious agreement, that it does meet the needs of both Canada and India, that it is going to support the needs of business. And so if that takes longer to do, we'd rather take the time to get it right.
Ms. Prashant Ajmera, with respect to the MOU being signed, it's very good and it's always interesting, the MOU being signed. But the real question comes back to the visa being issued. Has the relevant visa officers or the office in New Delhi being informed? Because consistently there was a denial of visas and no shooting in Canada, even though in Canada we have a beautiful credits available with respect to the film productions, but not to the Indians. So basically, by not issuing the visas, we are blocking the biggest film industry to coming to Canada. Has anything been done in that respect, or still we have to work on that?
Well, as I say, it was signed on Monday. They certainly are aware in the visa section in the High Commission. And on that front, I just want to say that the visa office there is the largest, one of our largest in the world, and actually runs one of the shortest time frames for turnarounds of visas also in the world. I think it's about 4 days, which is pretty remarkable. They process as quickly as they possibly can. Certainly they will be aware of the audiovisual co-production agreement, and whatever relevant changes they need to make to their process there, I'm sure that they'll be looking at those.
Okay, the 2 questions, maybe.
Mr. Chandra, my name is Amit Ram Teke. I'm from Interfleet, which is a SNC Lavalin Group company. Could you please outline the type of projects that you have set up for the DMIC in Maharashtra? Because we've heard a lot of what Gujarat is doing. They've got the Dholera Special Investment Region, and they've also set up the regulatory support structure for those projects to get off the ground. I just wanted to understand what's being done in Maharashtra.
In the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor project, each state which is part of the DMIC, and Maharashtra is one of them, there are 2 industrial townships which are to be set up. In Maharashtra, as I mentioned, we have acquired a large amount of land, about 3,400 hectares, that is 34 square kilometers in the Aurangabad, very close to Aurangabad city, just about 8 or 10 kilometers. There a special SPV will be set up. That will be a 51-49 joint venture between Government of Maharashtra and Government of India. And the shareholder agreements and the state support agreements, they have been cleared by the Government of Maharashtra and Government of India, and they will be signed, I think, we are targeting by tomorrow or day after. And there the contribution of Government of Maharashtra is by way of land, which we have already acquired, and Government of India will contribute in terms of cash equivalent to the price of the land. And then thereafter we are looking for support from JICA in terms of soft funds. And this township will be administered by this SPV, of which officer I will be the chairman. And we are planning to set up a convention center, the multimodal logistics park, and it will be a walk-to-work sort of a connected city, fully integrated with the city control room. So we are working on a very high value model in support with the DMIC DC in Government of India. And I'm sure you won't be disappointed vis-a-vis Gujarat.
Okay.
What kind of support is there from Canadian government for SME segment, primarily in two specific areas? One is the renewable energy and also on the life sciences area.
So in terms of the Canadian companies doing business in India?
No.
For Indian
These are
companies
there
doing
yes.
business in
Yes.
Canada?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, actually, I think it probably matters less which way it's going. I think the key is that we're looking for partnerships, and certainly the Canadian government has a network of professionals who help to make those partnerships happen. So that is the Canadian Trade Commissioner Service, of which I'm a part, and I have a team here in 8 offices across the country, about 48 people, 49 people now, and they are dedicated to making those connections. So in whatever way or shape or form, whether it's an investment or a joint venture or some kind of a representative agreement, or maybe it's a project that they want to work together on, a licensing arrangement, you name it, and joint research and development. You've got a lot of our colleges and universities represented here today, and they're working on different aspects of some of those very key technologies. And so I would encourage you to connect with those people and with my team if that's something that you're interested in.
I will do that, but my continuation of that is primarily, that was my question. What kind of a tax credit each one will get?
Well, so that depends on the type of activity that you're looking at. As I mentioned, the SRED credits, for example, in Canada, if you go to Canada and you establish your business there,
Yes.
and you start to do some research and development in Canada,
In Canada.
then there are different types of incentives and credits that you can apply for under those various programs that I mentioned. So there's a whole number of different programs, and we can talk about those separately if you'd like.
We'll do that. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Nadira?
So before we close and before I deliver the vote of thanks, just a couple of things that I would like to say. One is that over the years we have formed such a close alliance with Canada. We've had very successfully, established a very good relationship. And now I think the time is not why India, but how India. And I think we at the Indo-Canadian Business Chamber are, wanting to pave the way forward by explaining or by, facilitating as to how to do business in India and how this can become. Some of the points that were brought about is open data, open government, technology and innovative partnerships. And innovation is is the theme of our convention today. And maybe a direct flight by Air Canada to India and Canada probably might just get it started. Another thing that I'm going to borrow from Kevin Lynch, I think he's used to people borrowing this line. He just said that the Governor General also borrowed this last evening. But, again, we have been saying this over and over again that, the trade has gone up from the 3 billion, but we want to, still not achieve 15 billion. And we are just looking at the figure 15 billion. But why aren't we giving the background of our relationship, of the tremendous economy potential there is in the two countries? Why are we stopping at 15 billion? Why aren't we thinking big? Why aren't we doing 20 billion, 25 billion? There is the sky that we can aim for. And let us not think small, let us think big and go towards that. For Mr. Apurva Chandra, first of all, thank you very much for being here with us and for lending your keen insights as to how to open up Maharashtra and inviting more investment into Maharashtra. One of the things that I can tell you is that we were formerly the Mumbai Regional Council, but today we have renamed it as Maharashtra Regional Council, knowing the importance and what Maharashtra is doing in the sector and in the business line. We have Pune with, as Sarah said, for Magna, for Lightens. There's a lot happening in Maharashtra, and we're not going to stop only at Mumbai or Pune, but going to go to all the second-tier cities in Maharashtra, as we are doing in other parts of India. I'd like to thank Ms. Sarah Wilshaw for coming from, she's here from Delhi, for the immense support that they have always lent to us, the High Commission, the trade consulates all over India. They have given us immense support, and we are able to function as we are doing today, thanks to that. Mr. Shashi Gawai, for being here, for moderating, and for seeing that it's all going on time. I think I'm the one now taking up time, but you've done your job so well. Also, of course, Shashi Gawai is in the enviable position where he has all the experience, but he still has the liberty to be able to speak as he likes on the India-Canada thing. So thank you for being here and for sharing a thing with us. Ron, too, for being here. He is the president of the Indo-Canadian Business Chamber, and under his leadership, we hope to even do better. I cannot end without thanking our sponsors, Bombardier, Air Canada, TD Bank, and Ontario, for helping us do this event, because we do require your support all the time. Thank you. And Forestry Innovation Systems here for being a special partner with us. Our session partners, I will acknowledge as we go on to the other sessions. And the ICBC team, we have Reema, Pavitra, and Anish here today with us. They have been an integral part of planning this whole convention and making it happen. Thank you to all of you for being here with us, and for our friends from Canada who have come and who will be a part of the sessions during the day. Mr. Imran Panju is a Mumbai Regional chairperson of the Mumbai Regional Council, and thank you for this has happened in Mumbai this time, this convention, and yeah, sorry, Maharashtra Regional Council, yes. Thank you, and we now, I think, we'll break, but I don't think we'll have a tea break. We'll just start with the next session. We have the Honorable Kevin Lynch here with us today. We're very fortunate that he's been able to join us, and we will now invite the next panel to be here, and we start the session on financial services in 5 minutes.